This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and today we're in Florida introducing a historical novel that is based on a true story of a Jewish man forced to flee Austria following the Nazi invasion. I am joined here with the author, Nadine Nader. Thanks so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm going to start off a little bit about yourself. Originally, you were educated at Michigan State University. I mean, you were a high school teacher where you taught English, government, and U.S. history. But it was nearly 4 decades teaching with Delta College where you retired really to embrace your love of the written word. Share with us how maybe reading has always been a part of your journey.
I started with my sisters, they were much older, reading books to me, and I couldn't wait to learn to read myself. The first books I remember reading by myself were like Nancy Drew books, and it just progressed through the years. By the time I was in high school, I knew I wanted to be an English teacher, and I still read an awful lot. Um, I have a bookshelf with a whole shelf of to be read books because I think I kind of hoard them, afraid they're going to get away from me if I don't have them in my possession. so, and because I loved literature so much, I wanted to share it. And that's why I went into teaching English.
That is excellent. Obviously, you love reading books out there. You're inspired by many of them. What began in 1939 and ended in 1945 was the Nazi invasion of Poland. In 1938, this included Austria, which resulted in the Austrian population kind of being integrated into the Nazi regime. What area or where does your story take place?
It takes place in Vienna, basically the city of Vienna, where Willie lived with his family. And he and his family loved to do everything that Venetians did. They loved plays, they loved the orchestra, they loved hiking in the woods, canoeing down the Danube. Anything that it had to offer, the city had to offer, they did. I think that Willie loved Vienna, loved Austria because they had embraced the Jews since the late 1800s and offered them the same citizenship and rights other Austrians had. So they lived a near picture perfect life. And when he met his wife Gusty, they fell madly in love and raised two beautiful daughters until the Nazis entered.
So we're talking about a typical couple, a typical family enjoying the area, just like anyone there. Your novel details the heart-wrenching journey of Wilhelm Jurim, who inspired this book with a letter that he wrote to his sister and his brother. Where did this letter materialize for you, and why the decision to write about it?
A friend of mine, Stuart Moreau, when we were talking, he said that his grandfather had escaped the Nazis, and he had a letter from his grandfather that detailed his ordeal. And I said, "Boy, I'd love to see that." I said, the Holocaust museums, anyone would kill for this letter. I mean, I said they would really want it in their possession. I said, "This story's got it." After I read the letter, I said, "This story has to be told." He said, "Yeah, go ahead." And I talked to him and his cousin and filled in the blanks. Also, his cousin was very generous with letters or clippings, newspaper clippings of things that his mother had been in the newspaper for when she first came to the U.S., where she uh, told about what life was like in Austria. So I had a good sense of what Austria was like in 1938. Aside from I taught Holocaust lit for a long time, so I had the historical background. The letters gave me the cultural background.
Nadine, your dedication to Holocaust literature and education brings really authenticity and depth to this book. Why did you feel this story needed to be told, especially after you read it and realized you had a really good sense of maybe what he was trying to explain?
I have never seen many stories from Austria. And there were this most Austrians welcomed the Nazis. I mean, they greeted them with a parade. They were so excited they came because they had been flooded with Nazi propaganda through the radio for years, ever since Hitler took over in 1933. So when I saw this was happening in Austria, I knew it was a story that had to be told. And the second factor was he was married to a Christian woman. And I'm not sure that many stories about Jews and Christians marrying and living during that time have ever been told. And I just thought it filled a niche in Holocaust literature that was maybe empty.
I mean, that alone has drama within it right there. Just the marriage, as you say. I mean, you were a retired English professor who dedicated nearly 4 decades to teaching Holocaust literature. What will the reader learn in your book about this dark chapter in history?
How easily people can be led to do despicable things. I think that's the main message, and I see it being echoed in our country today. Um, I want people to understand that it was ordinary people that tortured the Jews. I mean, there were the population went along with the stormtroopers and also tortured the Jews. They were very easy. It was very easy for them to embrace the decadence, and anybody can be swayed this way. And I think it's important for us to remember that. I also think you can see the humanity in this book.
We always look back and wonder, how did this happen? But when you read those stories, you understand that there was ordinary people. You were encouraged by your students to write a book, and you did so after retirement. Was the perspective of this elderly man something each one of us can relate to as his concerns for his family grows under Nazi rule?
I modeled William a little bit after my own father and my own father's compassion. And I think that gave me more of an insight to what he was feeling, although he was very expressive in his letter. He expressed how much he loved his wife, how much he couldn't wait for her to join her, how much he cared about his kids. And that was just an easy um, thing to do. And I think everybody can relate to grandpa, you know. And I think that was really important that they had that connection was a way to connect.
Interesting. I mean, your passion for this history subject began in 6th grade and deepened after reading related books. How is this book relevant even today as we probably ponder how history can possibly repeat itself?
History is repeating itself. And I said in 2016 I was afraid of a decline like what happened in Nazi Germany. And people said, "Oh, you're crazy. Poo-pooed it. You're nuts. We have a good system here in the US, checks and balances." And I think we can see today that it's not holding very well. Um, there are people that openly harass minority groups, people that are doing the bidding of politicians to strip away rights. And that's what happened in Nazi Germany. So I think we need this story out, and in the afterword of the book, I try to draw some comparisons. I think no matter your political beliefs, what's going on right now is wrong, just like what was going on in Nazi Germany was wrong.
I mean, this timely message and really the core message of Tears in the Danube is a warning against the creeping dangers of what has happened and can happen again. Is remaining vigilant of our rights what you hope readers will also walk away with?
I hope that, but I hope they walk away with a deeper understanding of what it is to be the victim. I think if we can understand what it is to be a victim, then we can empathize with what's going on to people with people today. And I think that's the most important thing, to create empathy. And I know people aren't reading as much, and the decline in literacy I believe has contributed to the lack of empathy in our country.
Yes, definitely so. Before we let you go today, can you touch on what your most recent book, Bessie and Company, is about for young adults and where they can find that?
Bessie and Company is available from Hanger One Press or from Amazon. It is pure fantasy. This little girl discovers on the lakes of Lake Huron a sea monster who's the daughter of Nessie from the Loch Ness in Scotland. And through their adventures, I tried to also convey empathy for other species, um, caring, coming together as a community and sharing. It's an action-packed book. I mean, the little girl and her mother and Bessie get into all sorts of scrapes as they interact with Sasquatches and, um, other things, and also all the, animals that I have in there, sea creatures I have in there, are based on legends of, sea creatures that people in different parts of our country actually believe. I have a monster from, a sea creature, I'm sorry, I should call him a monster, he'd be so mad at me, from Pittsburgh, where I was born. I have a sea monster from, Port Huron, where I used to go to swim when I was growing up in Michigan. So I've got a lot of these, things that are rooted in legends, and I think that will also hopefully get young readers to look up some of these legends. I think the fact that we're not teaching fairy tales and legends, those are what give you empathy when you're growing up, and they're not being taught.
Well, like you say, so much to be learned from reading, especially for our young people to get back to that again. I think is important. Nadine, through this novel, you hope to educate and inspire readers to reflect on the past to prevent history from repeating itself. Has it been rewarding sharing this one man's journey to the public?
Yes, I've been a bit overwhelmed with its positive reception. Um, I had just hoped that the story would get out, the family would be pleased with the product. I never expect people, and I got, I mean, I had people from high school that I haven't talked to in years, seen in years, buy the book. I've had I mean, almost every former student that I am friends with on Facebook has bought the book. Um, so I'm getting such positive reviews. It's been at the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books in February. It'll be in Frankfurt's Book Fair in October. So yeah, it's been very rewarding.
I bet so. I mean, not only that, but it was probably an honor for you just to receive that letter from someone and let them entrust you really to put something together that will reflect the story that was given. Viewers, let's take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is the web page where you can purchase her books and learn more about this chapter in history. I mean, you can find both of her books on Amazon right there as well. Once again, that is Tears in the Danube and Bessie and Company by Nadine Nader. This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and if you don't know, now you know.